This is about defending democracy. This is no longer Democrats versus Republicans. What do you want your kids to believe in? There must be give and take.
This is White Flag with Joe Walsh.
I can't believe that after everything we've been through politically in this country the past 7 to 8 years that this needs to be said. But America, wake the fuck up. It's stunning to me that in the year 2023, those words need to be said to everybody, every American listening to me, watching me right now, who's not part of the mega Republican base. To everybody else, wake the fuck up. Stunning that that needs to be said. Completely stunning. After 7 years of Trump won in 2016. He almost won in 2020. By the way, that's overlooked by so many people on the left and so many never Trumpers. Donald Trump almost won again in 2020. But after Trump in the White House for 4 years, he almost gets reelected. Republicans control the House of Representatives. They almost control the Senate. They have a decent chance to control the Senate in 2024. Republicans have a really good chance to take back the White House in 2024. And here I am at the end of, early March of 2023, telling everybody else to wake the fuck up. That's where we are. I mean, CPAC this past weekend, I've got something I got to get off my chest because I've been preaching this now for a while, and I suppose I'm going to have to continue to preach it for a good deal longer. Listen to me closely, because this will be a bit of a rant, but it's not going to be a 20, 30-minute rant. I promise you that. This will be about a 14-minute rant, but it goes like this. Marjorie Taylor Greene is not Republican Party fringe. She's not some loony, far-right cartoon Republican Party fringe character. Marjorie Taylor Greene is mainstream Republican Party base. Get that. Know that. Wrap your arms around that. It's the truth. I understand how hard that is to accept. We've got two major political parties in this country, right? Two major political parties. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is mainstream in one of those major American political parties. Thinking about this, I've been riffing on this the last couple of days because CPAC was this past weekend. The gathering, right? The annual gathering of the Conservative Political Action Committee. This is the annual gathering of whatever the right in America is. They all get together. Politicians come and give speeches. Thought leaders, right-wing talkers give speeches in front of huge crowds of right-wing activists who gather back in Washington, D.C. this year from all over the country. I used to speak at CPAC in the times before Trump. They gathered this past weekend. And it was what you would expect right now when it comes to CPAC. It was 4 days of craziness, 4 days of lies, 4 days of cruelty, 4 days of misinformation, 4 days of disinformation, 4 days of cultish behavior, 4 days of authoritarianism, embracing shit. It was 4 days of craziness, of Republican MAGA right-wing craziness. And the temptation is, hence my rant, today, early this week. And even though they met this past weekend, CPAC did for 4 days, I can't let it go by without delivering this message that every fucking American who's not part of Mega World needs to hear. The temptation, and this bore out, is to laugh at this gathering of kooks and crazies and megaheads and extremists. And that's generally what people did. That's generally what commentators and talkers and media people and just normal people who are not part of the mega circus, the mega cult, everybody else looking at CPAC laughed. It's easy to laugh at them. It's easy to poke fun at them. It's easy to dismiss them, right? I mean, there's Marjorie Taylor Greene up on stage lying. Almost every word out of her mouth was a lie. The most damning lie was, outside of the 2020 stolen election lie, which was all over that auditorium for 4 days. Marjorie Taylor Greene lied about what Ukrainian President Zelensky said. She, again, put out this lie that now is all over the right, that Ukraine's President Zelensky said American sons and daughters need to die on the battlefield to defend Ukraine. Zelensky said no such thing. It's a lie. But there's Marjorie Taylor Greene up on stage, lying and lying and lying. There's Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon up on stage, claiming that Fox stole the 2020 election from Donald Trump. There's Carrie Lake up on stage calling Steve Bannon a modern-day George Washington. There's Lauren Boebert up on stage, strutting around up on stage, holding her Bible aloft and quoting from Scripture. Speaker after speaker, railing about the deep state. Speaker after speaker, railing about Hunter Biden and Biden's laptop. Brazil's former president, Bolsonaro, there he was up on stage claiming that his election was stolen. There's MyPillow's Mike Lindell up on stage. Well, it doesn't matter. Mike Lindell was speaking. So the temptation is, obviously, to laugh at all of this, to not take it seriously, to dismiss all of this deep state talk, all of the talk of banning books and banning any talk of America's real history. You actually had a speaker at CPAC who said that transgender people need to be eradicated, and that was cheered. So there's a temptation not to take any of this seriously, because this is craziness. But I want to remind you of a couple of things. We laughed at Trump in 2016. Trump and his followers, and Trump got elected. Many of us still didn't sufficiently take Trump seriously in 2020. Him and his cultish following and the message of Trumpism. Many of us didn't take that seriously in 2020, and Donald Trump almost won. And don't give me, please, my good Democratic friends, don't give me the bullshit that Joe Biden won by 7 to 8 million votes. Joe Biden won by about 55,000 votes in 3 states. You may want to get rid of the Electoral College. I'm fine getting rid of the Electoral College, but we ain't going to get rid of the Electoral College in 2024. It certainly was there in 2020, and Joe Biden barely won. I don't find anything funny about CPAC. I don't find anything funny about Marjorie Taylor Greene or Jim Jordan or Ronnie Jackson or Steve Bannon or any of them that spoke, or Donald Trump who spoke at CPAC over the weekend. It's scary. You need to understand why it's scary. Now, and I'll back up with kind of where I began. And I apologize if I'm being redundant right now. We have two major political parties in this country. That's it. Two major political parties. And the base, listen to me, the voting base of one of our two major political parties is fully radicalized. Now that's scary shit. And before I get to what I mean by radicalized, let me again re-emphasize my first point that I'm talking about the entire Republican Party base. I'm not talking about a few fringe characters. This is not fringe anymore. What we saw at CPAC is the base. The people at CPAC are the most committed Republicans, the most involved Republicans, the most engaged Republicans. They are the Republican activists. So everybody at CPAC represents the typical, hard, committed Republican voter. Don't call that fringe. That's now mainstream Republican. And I'd add this. If you're going to call CPAC and these loony characters who spoke at CPAC and attended CPAC fringe, well, then you've got to call the entire House Republican Conference fringe. Because the agenda we heard at CPAC, investigate Hunter Biden, investigate the deep state, the 2020 election was stolen, Facebook, Twitter, social media is still out to get conservatives, transgender people need to be eradicated, Dr. Fauci needs to be put behind bars. The head of Homeland Security, Mayorkas, needs to be impeached. Merrick Garland should be impeached. All the so-called crazy stuff that we heard at CPAC, this is the agenda of the House Republicans. All this fringe crazy stuff, that's the agenda of the House Republicans. So if CPAC is fringe, these House Republicans are fringe. This is mainstream Republican now. You need to wrap your arms around that. And you need to wrap your arms around the fact that the entire voting base of one of our two major political parties is radicalized. And I've been saying that for a long time, but what in God's name do I mean by radicalized? Easy. What I mean is the Republican Party base no longer believes in truth. They've given up on democracy. They want an authoritarian to rule them, to deliver 1954, their America, back to them, and they want to destroy their political opponents, not just defeat their political opponents. They want to destroy their political opponents. This is what I mean by radicalized. Think about that. The voting base of one of our two major political parties no longer believes in basic truths. There was a poll taken at CPAC. Something like 90% of the people at CPAC will never take any vaccine ever again. Radicalized. They've given up on democracy. They no longer believe the democratic process, i.e. elections, can give them back the America they want. So it's going to take a strong man. It's going to take a Trump, a DeSantis, a Tucker Carlson, an Orban, a Putin, a strong man to deliver them back their America. And just cruelty. It's no longer about beating somebody in an election. It's about destroying that person, ruining that person. Or as a speaker at CPAC said, eradicating that person because that person is transgender. Look, here's the deal. Maybe it's because, and I'll acknowledge this, maybe it's because I come from the Republican Party base, that maybe I am uber heightened about what we're up against. But I don't think they should be laughed at. I don't think the people who went to CPAC should be laughed at. I don't think Marjorie Taylor Greene should be laughed at. I don't think Steve Bannon should be laughed at. I think they need to be defeated. I think they need to be defeated. And I know you don't defeat them. We don't defeat them if we don't take them seriously. If we don't, on that level, respect them, respect their ability, respect their power, respect what they got, their juice. If we don't respect the ability of our political opponent to defeat us, they will defeat us. So to me, it does no good to laugh at Marjorie Taylor Greene and all the bullshit that she spewed at CPAC this past weekend. What does us some good is to listen to what she said, listen to why she said it, and defeat it. And defeat her. You just can't. That's the whole point, right? Trump got elected once. We don't want him to get elected again. So take this threat seriously. What my former political party is right now, don't laugh at that. Take it seriously so we can beat it and defeat it. I did a lot of TV this past weekend talking about CPAC and my former political party, and this is all I talked about. I don't want to laugh at these people anymore. I want to defeat them. I don't want them to control the House, the Senate, and I certainly don't want Trump or one of them back in the White House. One more quick point and then one final call. If you don't believe me and you still think Marjorie Taylor Greene is some fringe Republican character and not a leading voice in this Republican Party, let me tell you something. Kevin McCarthy would not be Speaker without Marjorie Taylor Greene. Tucker Carlson would not have all of the January 6th surveillance footage without Marjorie Taylor Greene, if not because of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene is the most powerful Republican in the House. You tell me she's fringe. You tell me she's fringe. Look, Donald Trump is a big problem. Yes. The millions and millions and millions of people who voted for and support Donald Trump are a bigger problem. But the millions and millions and millions and millions of people who still don't understand how or why anybody can support Trump and Trumpism, that's the biggest problem. That's the biggest problem. Here we are in 2023, and there are still too damn many of us, Democrats, liberals, progressives, moderates, principled, conservatives, never Trumpers, all the rest, independents, who still don't get, still don't understand, and still don't respect why any American can support Trump and Trumpism. That's the problem. We got to wrap our arms around that. And we need to defeat this thing again. So don't laugh at CPAC. Wake the hell up so that we can defeat these people who attended CPAC, so that we can defeat them again in 2024. Take them seriously. Understand them. And let's beat them. Hey, I'm Joe Walsh. Thanks for listening. This is White Flag with Joe Walsh. Tell all your friends about White Flag. Listen to this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Help me grow this podcast. Tell everybody you know about it. God bless. Thank you. Have a good week. Be brave out there.
Thank you for listening. Remember to listen, share, and follow White Flag with Joe Walsh on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere great podcasts are found. And be sure to leave a 5-star review. This has been White Flag with Joe Walsh.